Is there really a miracle mushroom that might help with your health issues? Let's find out. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ask Dr. Pickel Show. And to start off here, I want to talk about a friend of mine who actually practices what's called traditional Chinese medicine. And he lives in another state, but this was probably about 10 years ago. And we were talking about patients and conditions and different symptoms. And he said to me, hey, I get really good results with this mushroom that I use with a lot of my patients. So the first thing that came to my mind was mushrooms. That's got to be a little scary. Who knows what those mushrooms are doing to people? But then he got into a little more detail and said, wait a second, this isn't like some illegal mushroom thing. This is what is called Cordyceps. And so, I was like, Cordyceps, I've heard of it, but I really don't know a lot about it. So then he started to teach me and tell me, hey, you need to learn more about this. And here's kind of some interesting information about Cordyceps. So let's talk about Cordyceps, because I think you'll find it very interesting, and it's really a pretty amazing thing. In fact, they do call it the miracle mushroom. Now, it's been used in traditional Chinese medicine for like over 300 years. So, they've been using it for quite a while. In fact, it got a lot of attention in the 1993 Olympians from China. And basically these Olympic Chinese runners, I think they were female runners, they were breaking all these records. And, they were saying, wait a second, are they doping? What's going on? And they finally found out, they said, hey, no, they're taking Cordyceps before they run. They're getting Cordyceps from their diet. So that was kind of their secret. So what do these Cordyceps do? We're going to talk about that. Now, I'm not going to pronounce the Chinese word for it, but it's called the worm in winter and grass in summer. And that's what that word means for Cordyceps. And it is a medicinal mushroom. And here's the interesting thing. So basically this mushroom, which a mushroom is a fungus, and this fungus grows out of dead bug larvae, so insect larvae. So in fact, there's one type that grows out of the head of a dead worm. So when the worm dies, this fungus, which is kind of like a parasite inside the worm in the head, starts to grow out, and then they pick it from that. I know it sounds gross and horrible. It's called an entomopathogenic fungus. So it's like, oh, who discovered that? Who's been eating that? Kind of interesting though. And here's the really interesting part is those people that go out and pick that and sell it, they sell this stuff for $12,000 per kilogram. So it's pretty valuable. So if you're going out and you're having to pick this tiny stuff off dead bug larvae, you're probably going to make some good money off just a tiny amount. Now, where do you find this? Yeah, you got to go to about 14,000 feet altitude, above sea level there. And you're going to find it in China, Nepal, Tibet, and India. These are the common places where it's picked. And the Latin word for this, because it's Cordyceps, cord, which means club, and ceps, which means head. So it's kind of called the club head fungi sometimes because of the way it looks. And that's mainly that type that comes from the worm head. All right. So, what do they use it for in China? What the heck is it used for sometimes? Well, I would say number one, it's used to replenish the kidneys and soothe the lungs. That's what you'll hear a lot of the Chinese medicine doctors refer to it as, or that's kind of the common thing. But it's used really for the treatment of fatigue is probably one of the biggest things. It's also used for night sweats. It's used for low libido. It's used for high blood sugar issues, like diabetes and insulin resistance. It's used for high cholesterol. It's used for fatigue after illness. After you get sick and you feel just this, I can't get over the fatigue, I fought it off. But yeah, if used for that, respiratory diseases, kidney diseases, and kidney failure, heart disease, and even arrhythmias, and even liver disease. Now, the research actually supports a lot of this. The research actually shows it's anti-tumor, very interesting, anti-diabetes, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. It's an immune system modulator. It helps prevent the immune system from over or under reacting. It's also a diuretic, gets rid of extra fluid in the body. Anticonvulsant, it's an analgesic. It inhibits blood clots, or what's called platelet aggregation. It's an antimicrobial, it's an antiviral, it's an antifungal. It helps to synthesize serotonin. It decreases blood pressure, so it helps with hypertension. Anti-allergies, is loaded with vitamin B1, B2, B12, vitamin E, vitamin K. It helps with low T. It's an adaptogen, which means that if something's too high high in the body, it brings it down. To something too low, it brings it up. It kind of levels off the system. That can help a lot with anxiety or fight or flight issues. Actually, there's a lot of things that Cordyceps helps amazingly. In fact, in the research, this is where I pulled this picture, is out of the research. I mean, look at this. We'll start at the top and go clockwise. Here's our anti-cholesterol or hyperlipidemia, preventing too much fats in the blood, anti-hypertension, which means it helps with high blood pressure, anti-osteoporotic, so it helps with osteoporosis, improves renal function, so it helps with your kidney issues, anti-malarial, which, we aren't seeing a lot of that in the United States, but hey, this could be great stuff for people who are more susceptible to that and are traveling out of the country, anti-arthritis, anti-cancer. Now, this one they actually did wrong. They said anti-fertility. Actually, it does the opposite. So don't take this thinking it's going to prevent pregnancy. It actually will aid in it. It actually helps increase libido and increase male fertility. It's an antioxidant. It protects your liver. It's antiviral, anti-aging. It's an immunomodulator, anti-diabetic. So, I mean, this is some great stuff. And on top of that, look at this. It helps protect the brain. It's called neuroprotective. And so, again, it has all the flavonoids, saponins, all these things in it that help to protect the brain. So, I mean, wow, does it get much better than this? So now here's how you'd want to dose this. Now, when you look for cordyceps, rarely are you getting straight cordyceps. That would probably be too expensive for us to buy, maybe even too expensive for supplement manufacturers to use. So they're going to use this cordyceps, and they're going to use derivative kind of cordyceps. And that's where we're going to see probably the most common ones you'll see is the Cordyceps CS4 in your supplements, or the Cordyceps sinensis mycelium. And these are fine. You're still going to get the effects of cordyceps with these. Now, you'll need to dose it at about 250 to 1,500 milligrams. I mean, I have seen people go up to 2,000 in some really severe cases. And you want to do this about 3 times a day potentially. But again, always talk to a doctor before you start any type of supplement. And then also, you always want to start with everything low and work your way up. And then, you can take it with or without food. Now, here's where it's interesting. This is good to potentially take in the mornings, and it's good for your pre-workout to take. So pretty neat stuff. Now, there are other types. If you go to look at these herbs or go to a store or online and look for this stuff, you may see these other forms. Probably this one you'll see a lot of militaris. And these are actually cultured where they're, growing this stuff and for its particular therapeutic properties. So you can start to kind of look up each one of these and say, hey, what's this one the best for? Or what's that one the best for? But overall, cordyceps, it is. I would call it a miracle mushroom. Pretty amazing stuff. And I would say also you'll tend to find it combined with other mushrooms or herbs or botanicals in a formulation, even combined with some vitamins and minerals and things like that. So you don't always have to just get it by itself. Sometimes it's good to have these combinations because they can have such great effects. So cordyceps, definitely big thumbs up. All right, well, hopefully everybody got some great information out of this. God bless, and I'll see you next time. And also, I think you'll like this next video, so watch that, and you'll see me there.